Quiet Connection is proud to be affiliated with the Blue Dot Project through Postpartum Support International. As an ambassador, I am dedicated to promoting perinatal mental health awareness, spreading the blue dot as a symbol of support and solidarity, and ending the stigma and shame. The blue dot is a universal symbol for perinatal mental health and is owned by the community. That means you. Anyone can use it. You'll notice a blue dot on all of Quiet Connection's social media accounts. To learn more, visit thebluedotproject.org. Welcome to Quiet Connection, a podcast dedicated to ending the stigma surrounding perinatal mental health. I'm Chelsea, and I'll be honest, this episode did not start with me at my most polished. Life was chaos. I was overwhelmed, but thankfully I had two incredible guests to carry me through it. I was so honored to connect with therapists, writers, and mothers, Mahaley and Emily. They share their experiences from Mahaley's NICU journey and the loss of her daughter Sachi to parenting and the healing power of coming together to write an absolutely incredible book together. And they did it with such warmth and grace that even in my chaos, this conversation became something truly beautiful. Hold on tight. Here's Emily and Mahaley. Hello. Today I am here with two guests. I'm here with Emily and Mahaley. Hello. How are you both?
Hello. Thank you so much for having us. I'll let Mahaley start off. How are you doing?
I'm doing great amidst my parking situation in Canada that I'm trying to deal with. I'm doing great.
Yeah, we just went over this. The parking situation is not playing
great.
nice. It's not
also
being
freezing
Canadian.
here, so it's not.
It's freezing. Well, okay. Are you going to give me Celsius? What is it where you are right now?
Yeah, I've fully converted to Celsius. No,
Don't do that. I don't know what it means.
The car does say 17 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is. I think it's somewhere in the 50s.
Okay. Yeah,
Low
that's
50s.
not fun. No, I'm in Vermont, which we're usually really cold, but we're 75. So I'm solid. That is cold. I feel you.
It's a mess.
Emily, how are you?
I'm like in the sandwich generation feel of things right now. I'm in that era of my life. So it's a little bit of a lot, but I'm in Maryland and it's a little humid here today. But, I'm like very one day at a time, not even one day at a time. I'm like one moment at a time right now.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that deeply. Well, I appreciate you both spending some moments with me. And
Likewise.
yeah, we're going to get into it, and this will be a little interesting. I've only done a couple of episodes with two guests at once, but we're going to dive into it. I think I will start off like I always start off. And I'll ask you guys, and I'll ask you separately. I'll make it easy for you. But the questions will be, who are you today? And who were you before becoming a parent? And how about we start with Emily?
Okay. So just who am I today to start, or who am I today to start out with? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still learning a lot about myself. I know the identifiers, right? I know I'm a mom and a wife and a friend and a daughter and a sister and all those things. I think I'm somewhat of a garden witch or maybe a kitchen witch or somewhere in between. um, I'm someone who's really believing more and more that I care less about what the people around me think of me and whether I'm weird or that kind of thing. I'm very much that person. I'm also a perinatal mental health therapist, and that's work that I love doing, but I also really love working with clients around neurodivergence and starting to get into the sandwich generation stuff that I talked about. So, and I'm a writer, and I'm an owner of chickens and cats and all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the witchy vibes and the I don't give an F vibes. I would like some
Thank
more of
you.
that in my life. Yeah, Mahaley, how about who are you today?
I think, like Emily said, I'm probably still figuring it out. Pre-parenthood questions are tricky for me because it's like pre-parenthood. My oldest is almost 9, but then I also have a daughter that I lost in 2023. So I think that's been the biggest identity shift for me. And I think, like many people who have lost children and are kind of on a forever grief journey, it evolves all the time. Who I am, what I feel, what I have the capacity for. But like Emily said, I know the identifiers, right? I'm also a wife, a mother to 4. A lot of things still ring true, like that always have my sense of humor, my love for laughter, fun, spending time with friends, family, etc. Also, therapists specializing in perinatal mental health focus a little bit
Mhm.
more on the kind of trauma, bereavement, grief aspect of that. But yeah.
Yeah. And I like too that you identified that who you are today is it's gonna it may not be who you are tomorrow or who you were yesterday. Like it's a constantly evolving thing, and we are gonna get deep into your story and Emily's story too. But talk to me a little bit about pre-kids. You said, Mahaley, you said you have an almost 9-year-old. I have an almost
Hmm.
10-year-old, so I feel you.
Hmm.
Um, that puberty is knocking at the door, and I don't wanna answer. I would rather
Mm-mm.
say we're not home. But anyway, enough about me. Did either of you or did both of you envision yourselves having kids? Was it something that was on your life plan?
Mm.
Whoever wants to go first.
Mahaley looks like she
Yeah.
has an answer, like, ready to I can hold my tongue a minute.
Well, yeah, I always wanted kids. That was never uh it was never something that I really like questioned. I always knew that I really wanted to be um find a life partner. I don't know that like marriage specifically was important. I mean, I did want to get married, but finding a life partner and having kids was something very much but I think like a lot of people I didn't really have any idea what that meant.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
resonates.
I have, an almost 11-year-old and an 8.5-year-old, and, I think that the idea of having kids was pretty constant, although there were times in my life, like, in different points where I was considering career paths and things like that, where the idea would kind of I would play with the idea of like, "Oh, well, what would it look like if we didn't?" And, but it was pretty clear once my husband and I met and decided that we wanted to spend our lives together that I was like, "Oh, yeah, but I really wanna have kids with this guy, and I really wanna create a family with him." So that was pretty clear.
And as we'll get into, the like you said, you or like Mahaley said, really had no idea what we were signing up for. And both of your journeys took very different paths than I'm sure either of you could have ever anticipated. Which is kind of why we're here. We're here to talk about those things and normalize those things. And it's the reason that the two of you wrote a book. um,
That's
and
actually that's Mahaley's fault. It's all her fault.
that's Mahaley. That it's your fault. We're gonna.
Goodness.
It's
It is.
we're we're playing the blame game.
I'm just kidding.
No, I know. Well, okay, so that's an interesting. I'm sure listeners are interested. Did you two know each other prior to this?
I knew of Emily's work. Yeah, I had used a book that she had written for several years. It came across my desk, I don't know, 5 years ago. So I used a book that she wrote, Birth Story Brave at the time, which is now Birth Story Brave Reimagined. And I do a type of trauma therapy called EMDR. And so
Mhm.
because of that and working in the perinatal space, I got a lot of birth trauma clients, have had, still have. And at some point in that work, her book came across my desk. A friend and colleague recommended it to me. And it was sort of kind of the first time that I really realized like the power that writing and telling your story can have uh, outside of the therapy room. Obviously, so much of therapy and talk therapy is telling your story, but I think more specifically writing, and writing in a kind of guided way that her book allowed for. So yeah, we did not know each other, but I was familiar with her work.
Yeah. And
She
you're
slid
both
into my
no,
DMs.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah,
I was gonna say so you kind of just were like, "Oh, hey." We're did you
basically. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like some of the best friendships are formed
Yeah.
that way too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
yeah.
it's wild, but I don't know. Somewhere, like sometimes your like parents or like someone like influential in your life will say something and it's really simple, but it like kind of sticks with you. I
Yeah.
had one of those moments many years ago with my mom, who is wildly accomplished and educated and um super smart. And she was just like, I mean, if you don't ask, like you're never gonna know, right? Like the
Mhm.
answer to an unasked question is always no. And I think that's always just stuck with me. So I would rather ask in, a nice way, right? And like the worst thing that can happen is they say no,
Yeah. And then the
I
which
doors
she
can open.
didn't. Spoiler alert.
I know, right? And I said yes.
No, I love that. That is so wise, and that's something that my mother has said to me as well in doing this, because they're just like you, like when you read Emily's work and you were like, "Oh, I really want to connect with her." There are people that I've wanted to connect with and I've been like, "There's no way this person's ever going to respond to me." Right? Like I'm never
Mhm.
going to hear like the birth trauma mama. I'm like she's never going to respond to me. Yeah, she does.
That's
Mhm.
Because
fantastic.
if you don't reach out, it's always a no.
Yeah, it's always enough.
So yeah. So but the other side of this coin too is that you guys are in a club that no one wants to join. You guys are kind of in this journey that no one wants to be a part of, but you meet some of the most extraordinary people and you find your people in this journey. So, spoiler alert again, what kind of connects the two of you? Not only are you both mental health professionals and in the perinatal field, but you both have NICU experiences,
So actually, and I'll let
correct?
Mahaley like start too. So I actually did not have a NICU experience. I was a NICU baby, which I totally forgot about until after the book came out. Surprise.
Okay,
But
okay.
um, but I had volunteered in the NICU when I was a teenager, and then I've had a PICU experience with my son. But Mahaley brings, and like other than working with my therapy clients, Mahaley brings the personal NICU experience from actually having a baby in the NICU.
Okay. See, I told you guys, I don't do a whole lot of research because I
It's
want to
okay.
meet you authentically, and
It's okay.
this is perfect. This I'm learning authentically.
It's
But
okay.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your
Sure.
understanding. So, okay, so let's dive into a little bit of your personal stories and how you guys connected, obviously. I think I'll probably start with Mahaley and just talk about so you are a mom to four. But can you walk me through your journey into and through parenting up until today?
Sure. I'll give you a really abbreviated version.
Right? That's a big question.
My oldest is almost 9. She'll be 9 in November. So the journey to her was um pretty simple. Outside of hyperemesis, which I've had in all 3 of my pregnancies. I have 4 kids, so I've carried 3 of them. Outside of that, it was a pretty uneventful, uncomplicated pregnancy. Not a complicated birth. I think postpartum as a new mom, relatively new marriage, all that was definitely like a whirlwind. So I think getting to the idea of a second kid, my husband also travels a lot for work, hence why I'm in Canada, is it made me really hesitant to, I'd sort of always envisioned 2 kids and made me really hesitant to have a second, didn't really totally understand how that would fit into our lives. And so then became the journey to my daughter, Sachi, who would be 3 in February. So right around, I guess, the time that this is coming out. And, uh, the journey to decide to have her was complicated and lengthy, right? So they're 6 years apart. Similar pregnancy, hyperemesis, otherwise uneventful. doctor's appointments, everything got eventful. She had meconium aspiration at birth, did an emergency C-section. She ended up in the NICU, and she died 5 days later. So then began the journey to my son, Kaya, who is 16 months, and my daughter, Archie, who is 10 months. And I didn't really know. There were still at the time a lot of kind of unanswered questions about like everything that happened with Sachi. If it could happen again, if I carried another pregnancy, etc. So we began pursuing the path to surrogacy. Um, in that process, I got pregnant with my son, Kaya. And then my daughter, Archie, was born through our angel surrogate. And so that's how I have two babies 6 months apart.
Yeah, which is a lot. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
In the best way.
in the best way. Well, and I'm happy to hear you say that because I'm sure you hear this all the time and it's not a helpful thing to hear, but like I can't imagine myself in that situation and it's not a helpful thing to hear because you're like, yeah, well, I'm doing it. I do it every day. So
Yeah.
like cool.
I think me pre Sachi would have been like, why would any human pursue that? Yeah, but that just shows you what how profound child loss can be on a person and how they view the world and their identity. Cause I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever done. Don't get me wrong, there's moments of overwhelm for sure. And the family is as complete as it'll ever be on earth. But I feel like the luckiest human in the world to have them. The alternative of not having them is that, because I've also lived that, right?
Yeah.
Is not, this is the better path for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um My brain went in so many directions. I also want to note that I mean, I love all of your children's names, all 4 of them.
Thank
Um,
you.
but, Archie in particular was, it's your daughter's name, and I love that it's your daughter's name because it was my grandfather's name, and it
I
is
love that.
not a commonly used name. He was born in 1912, so this is like you picked a very, very classic name, and I love that you chose it for your little girl. So anyway, that's just a personal thing. Love it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Aw.
Yeah. I'm gonna try really hard to weave back and forth between you. um, I'm usually pretty good at this, but we'll see how this goes. So before I get to Emily and Emily's story, because I do want to know your story and your journey as well. Where in that path, Mahaley, did Emily come in?
Um, so if you fast forward sort of to post Sachi's death, being a therapist in this space is an interesting position to be in after the death of your child. So for a while I was like, I don't think I'm going to go back to work. I would joke with my friends, but not really. I'm like, I just think I'm going to be an accountant. I love
Mm,
numbers. That sounds good to me. Somewhere along the way that shifted. I don't really exactly know where, but then work became almost like a way to spend time with her and sort of shifting my work more into working with, bereaved parents, grief, NICU families, because I felt like my NICU experience with Sachi it was the first baby I had had in the NICU. And I felt like that was a really unique experience just by itself. And I also started writing a lot after Sachi died. So I think the combination of not switching gears, but maybe fine tuning my focus a little bit more at work, coupled with my love and appreciation for writing, I sort of kept coming back to her book, and that's the style of it, right? It being kind of a guided journal with prompts and really a book that you could use as a tool. I was like, I really would love to have something like that for NICU families, right? Regardless of whether they came home with their baby or they left without their baby, like myself. regardless of the duration of their stay. I just think the NICU is like a really like its own experience that families have, again, regardless of their outcome.
And like you said, you were a big fan of Emily's book and you reached out to her.
Mhm.
Emily, bringing it sort of into your journey. So, you did not have a NICU experience with your kids, but you had experience in the NICU, um, and volunteering in the NICU and that. What was your journey into parenting like? How did you get to where you are today with your kiddos?
Yeah. So we had, I guess, both of my pregnancies, well, both were very uncomfortable for me. I am not a person who enjoys being pregnant. I'm just not. Both were very uncomfortable for me, but otherwise healthy. Both of my kiddos were born on the early side of things, but not premature. So, like, my son was 37 weeks in one day. He was just like early full term and things like that. And I had a C-section with him because he was frank breech, and I did everything I could possibly do to get him to turn, but it turns out that the umbilical cord was really short, and it was keeping him from
Oh.
turning, so that kept us from, being able to have a vaginal birth. And then with my daughter, though, I really wanted to try for a VBAC, and that worked out, and actually the NICU team was there because there was concern about meconium aspiration, um, but luckily it ended up that she had not actually ingested any or breathed any in, um, and my kiddos are about 2.5 years apart, and like I mentioned, so I didn't have a NICU stay with either of them, but about a little over 4 years ago, my son did have, a really serious accident that landed us in the PICU for, actually, luckily only a couple of days, but it was a very intense couple of days, and Mahaley and I are definitely of the mind that, like, sometimes these experiences, whether it's 1 day, less than 1 day, months, doesn't matter, can be equally or, it's all relative, right? The impact that it can have on a person. So, I do think that that experience helped give me kind of even more understanding or knowing into the idea of grappling with these really tough things with your children, and experiences. Yeah. So it was a somewhat straightforward journey into parenthood, sort of, but it hasn't, parenting the kiddos that I have, and learning who they are versus what I expected that's been a whole other thing, which is probably a whole entire other podcast episode.
Yeah, yeah, I say that almost every time, some that we bring that up, and it is, just the parenting journey is never what we expected, I don't think, and like you said, impact and lasting effect is relative, and I love that you say that because I met with a guest earlier today that was like, "Oh, well, my story wasn't really traumatic, so, like, my" sometimes I used to tell myself like, "Oh, well, this isn't valid," but it's all valid, and especially when it comes to NICU, PICU, anything like that. Like, my youngest was in the NICU for a few hours, just a few hours, but, he said, like, it's your experience, and how you experienced it is valid. It's all
Absolutely.
valid.
Absolutely. We think there are
Um,
room for all of those stories, like absolutely
yes,
every one of them.
yes. So, when Mahaley reached out to you, she slid into your DMs,
It was my
um
inbox, but yes.
Um, what was your initial thought? Like, was it a pretty casual, just like, "Hey, I've been reading your book," or, like, did she get straight to business, like, "I really wanna write a book with you?"
Yeah, well, it was a pretty clear ask. I mean, she had some really kind things to say, which I really appreciated because when you work for yourself, you don't always get feedback. So it's always nice to hear, how your work might be affecting other people in a positive way. But if I remember correctly, I think she had a pretty clear ask of like, "Hey, I'm really interested in the idea of maybe collaborating on something together. Can we talk about this?" And I can't remember if it was super specific. I feel like it was pretty specific around the NICU and things like that. But we connected pretty quickly, and that was only a little over a year ago. I mean, this whole process has been somewhat of a whirlwind in a good way, like, but the relative ease with which everything came together was kind of amazing.
Yeah, the 2 of you so, again, I have a ridiculously long list of books that are in my queue because, everyone who is sort of in this sphere, this maternal mental health and just parenting and pregnancy realm seems to just be you all seem to be magicians in the writing field, but even just from your social media presence and the things that you guys are collaborating on and you just seem to complement each other very, very well.
Thank
Um,
you.
Mahaley, specifically, I wanted to ask you, yes, we're going to talk about this book and the process to writing this book, but I wanted to ask you specifically, and you mentioned it a little bit, when you went through the experience of having your daughter and losing her in the way that you did, and you said like you weren't sure if you were going to go back to work right away. And when you made that decision to go back, what kind of an impact did that make on how you were seeing your clients and your patients?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because of I was working in a group counseling center at the time. And what's great about that is I had in-house people covering for me on my maternity leave. But the nature of it, right, of how unexpected it all was, how quick her death was, how um I don't think anyone knew like what I was gonna sort of do, you know, come back to work or not. My clients all knew what had happened. So there were a few that actually chose to not come back to me, um, which I can understand. I think in our world, so much of at least my clients' focus was on getting pregnant, the hurdle to getting pregnant, and getting through that first trimester. I think a story like mine is a real kick in the ass to everyone, right?
Yeah.
Of this, like, I did everything in my power, right? I had great medical care. I had great doctors. It was uneventful, uncomplicated, and the worst thing that could happen to you happened, right? So, I think for a lot of people, my story represents something they never want to face. And
Mhm.
thankfully, statistics, most people won't have to, probably, right? So I think I can totally understand that decision. And and then, I also decided to downsize, for my own well-being. And I think also too for the well-being of my clients. There were certain clients that I just don't think would have benefited had I come back to them. And so because of that, I started off in a pretty lighter load. And it was a while before I took new clients. So then I sort of had, a handful of clients that knew it happened, a handful of clients that don't know anything. It was super hard. There were a lot of sessions that I, would just text a friend after and be like, I don't know that I can continue doing this, right? I think it's really hard when you've had the experience that I've had. I'm human. I'm a therapist, but I'm also a human. So when you hear someone complain and it's completely within their right to complain or to vent or to offload about something that is really hard for them, but an experience that I wish I could have, right? That's a complaint I wish I could have. It creates a really challenging dynamic as a therapist and a client. And so I think had I had to go back and be the like financial provider for my family, it probably would have looked really different. I probably would have just gone into a different population. And that's just a tremendous privilege that I had that I didn't have to necessarily worry, like, how am I going to put food on the table? Right.
Yeah.
Because of that, I think I was able to ease back in a way that felt better for everyone, my clients and myself. And then I think just came the natural transition of working with bereaved parents, and I think that's the work I've sort of in this gap because a lot of clients have aged with me, so a lot of them
Mm.
now we're just navigating like parenting, which I love. I love reading about parenting. I'm very passionate about it, so it's great. I love talking about it. and then also this kind of other side of people who are, really dealing with grief. I have
Yeah.
less of a focus now, kind of in the middle.
Emily, when Mahaley told you her story, and um and I love that you said, I'm a therapist, but I'm also a person. I'm a human,
Mm,
because I think that's so often overlooked. And I think, Emily, you're the perfect person to receive a story like that because you get that. You get
yeah.
that there's a human behind the therapist. What were your initial thoughts?
I The biggest thing that I've felt since, Mahaley told their story and then her husband Ravi shared his part of it, the biggest thing that I felt the whole time has been gratitude to be part of this in any way. Um, you know, Mahaley had shared a lot about it, I guess when we first met, and then there have been other little threads that have like trickled out, over the months. And yeah, I just feel grateful to be part of it and glad to be trusted with the story and to get to know Sachi in any small way. And I just feel really incredibly grateful for that. And I even asked Mahaley, I was like, "Are you sure I'm the right person?" I was like, "I don't know if I'm the right person," because I was honest that I didn't have a personal NICU experience and I wanted to make sure. And she felt solid in her choice. But so that made me feel even more grateful to be trusted to hold and then like help with one of these first projects to honor Sachi and help her kind of touch lots of people and their hearts everywhere.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Hold on just a second. Well, my screen just decided to open something. Okay, here we go. Yay, technology.
It was like maybe Sachi is just
Um,
saying hi.
I mean, Sachi might be saying hi because, well, I don't know if this is significant to you at all, but dragonflies, for me, are a big, like a visit from someone that I've lost. And my browser is opening HP Dragonfly over and over and over and
It's really
over.
funny. I know a
Love
lot of
that.
people who dragonflies are quite significant too in that way. I know Mahaley's thing is especially butterflies with her, but like I don't know, to
It's
me it
still
all
doing it.
really?
It's still going, and I'm like, I can't close it out fast enough. Um, I don't know what's happening right now. So maybe this is Sachi, saying like,
Oh.
"Hello, you're talking about me." Yeah, it's still whatever. We're still recording though, so we're gonna. Hi, Sachi. I was going to say too. I think something that's so important, and that I love. That you that I can't even talk now. That was really overwhelming. It finally stopped. Um, I love that your reaction to that was gratitude, and honoring Sachi. And so I've had several parents now who have either lost a child after birth or have had full term stillbirth or things like that. And one of the most important things that I've learned as someone who has not experienced that, um, is is that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the thing that I'm told over and over again is the best way to sort of honor that child is to talk about them and to include them and to speak their name. And Mahaley, you do that so beautifully from what I see just on social media. Sachi is kind of a part of everything that you do.
Mhm.
Um so when you're working together and you guys decided that you were going to collaborate together, how what was the role of, I can't even think anymore because that was so overwhelming
Oh
to me. Well,
yeah.
no, it just, well, it was
Yeah. I
I
get
know that
that.
butterflies are big for you, but dragonflies are my thing. And when you
Oh.
started talking about Sachi, it just was dragonfly, 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 dragonfly.
Oh.
So I'm just a little overwhelmed
No,
right
it's
now.
okay. I mean, these things like it's also really a great reminder to it always is a great reminder to me anyway that we are connected, that there's,
Yeah.
something bigger
And I mean,
that's tying
and
us.
I'm not necessarily, I'm not, I also don't want to like be like, cause I don't know you very well. I'm just meeting you today. So I don't want to be like, oh, hey, Sachi's on my computer. Like, but it did that was kind of a symbol for me. Like, wow, like
Yeah.
Mhm.
she wants to be a part of this.
She is a part.
Yeah.
She's totally,
She
yeah.
is a part of this. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you approached this project, how you approached this collaboration, and the role that Sachi played in it?
I mean, she is the only reason that this book exists with my name on it, right? Maybe
Mhm.
someone down the road would have written it, but it certainly wouldn't have been me. So that she is the reason that the idea even existed for me.
Mhm.
She's also the reason that writing is a big part of my life now. That wasn't really something that I did in a significant way before. And also that's a big part of this book, right? Is it's really a guided tool. It's a reflection guide designed to help people walk through their NICU story, right? So just in its very format, that is part of it, writing. So yeah, and then it was I correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that Emily's previous books had a lot of personal stories in them.
No.
And for me, as much as I wanted it to be a tool for other people to use to walk through their own journey, I also know that for myself and many bereaved parents that I know, the biggest help and source of, I don't know if comfort is the right word, but source of something was seeing other people who had walked through child loss and survived.
Mhm.
That was for me, and that's where like I and still do like devour books written by other people who have lost children. And that was why, like it for me, it was a sign of okay, they're not special. They survived, and I'm not special. I can do it, right? They're no different from me. So I really wanted some sense of a personal element in the book, and Emily thankfully was really open to that.
But yeah.
So like, you talk about signs, right? And I talk about that in some of the personal elements that I included in the book of what butterflies has signified and just that very idea of signs and those being present in your world, right? Whether you've lost a child or you've lost another loved one or um, and and so we both have kind of a personal note in there, and then we have two really beautiful contributions. One from my husband who really wanted to speak to, and I really wanted him to speak to the partner experience in the NICU and how unique that is. And then we have another individual who made a really lovely contribution as well. So yeah, that's I just don't. Again, the book may have existed without Sachi's life. It just would have never existed with my name on it.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
she is in. Well, really, I mean, everything they do, right? She's in the whole reason that I went back to work, and certainly a part of this book.
Yeah. Um I the closet light is now turning on and off on its own. I'm not making this up. Um
Chelsea, you are
We're in
just
a
like a
we're in a
hub right
podcast
now.
of signs.
I don't know what's going on. This is really bizarre. But yeah, her closet light is turning itself on and off. So yes. Okay. Anyway, yeah. Well, welcome all the things. I mean I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person, but as long as whoever's here is going to be nice and kind, you're
Yep.
free to hang.
You're welcome.
You are
Benevolent
welcome
energy
here.
only. And it's
Yes,
interesting
please.
about like how and I don't think I've ever reflected on this so much, but like snails have played a really large role in when Birth Story Brave came out and um were constant signs about like the slowing down, don't rush the process, going within, and then at like the spiral of going within, but then also expanding outward to make your story whole and complete and expansive. Um, so there's been, I guess, there are they arthropods? Anyway, I guess they're not insects,
I
but
don't
there
know
have been
what they are.
interesting. It's been
Still don't
interesting.
know. I still don't know the I mean, I
Wait, they're
know.
mollusks. I think they're mollusks.
Are they
I think
snails?
so. I think so.
Maybe. I also
You
Mahaley
don't
gave me
said,
$1
know.
"How
million.
did we get
I
here?"
couldn't tell you.
I just
Yeah, how did we get here? There's a ghost in my closet, and we're talking about signs.
I'm pretty sure snails and slugs are both
So this
also
is a science
mollusks.
podcast.
But
Yes, this is the signs pod.
This
That's
is
going to be
the
your
science
episode
episode.
title.
that's exactly it, is like
yeah.
the signs and like these parts of and actually for me right now in my current life it's praying mantises. Praying mantises. Um but the way that these things if we let ourselves pay attention and listen, there's a lot that we might miss otherwise if we rush past. And I think, Sachi lets Mahaley know that regularly. Like that's
Yeah.
at least what I perceive Mahaley, but
Yeah. She's the only person that could have ever in my life gotten me to slow down and look for that. Yeah. It would have
Yeah.
never happened otherwise.
Well, and there's something that you mentioned. Again, like I said, I don't like to learn a lot. I want to meet you guys authentically, but I do have my guests fill out a little Google form so that I know what's important to you. And something that you included that really resonated with me was the idea of silver linings. I am not a fan of silver linings, but we keep talking about these things and we keep talking about signs. And yes, Mahaley, you may have never reached out to Emily if Sachi had never been born or if Sachi had not passed away. And these things that you've created together are because of Sachi and for Sachi.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a silver lining. Like there doesn't have to be something special and happy and wonderful to justify the experience that you went through. That really resonated with me. And I was wondering if you could speak on that a little bit, like your perception of the whole silver linings idea. Either of you, both of
I'm
you.
like, I was just going to say it's to me, it's really that's letting the whole story in. That's addressing the both and that's saying that like, hey, this really awful thing happened and it still is awful and sad and these things happened.
Mhm.
Not like this thing doesn't matter as much, not toxic positivity like, because of this, these things happened and like to diminish from the grief or any of that. That stuff is all very real and present. And at the same time, look at all these really cool connections that can happen and the generativity and creativity that like came out of this thing or came alongside or after.
Yeah.
I think that as a society and as a culture, we need reasons for why things happen. And I think not for everyone, but for individuals like myself and other people out there, sometimes bad things just happen. There's no reason. There's no medical reason. There's nothing I could have done to prevent it. In fact, I was in the best place that I could have been for something like that to have happened, right? And so I think that's why, like, my story in particular, sometimes I can sense that it feels really scary to people
Mm.
because they want to know, well, what did you do? Right?
Mm.
How did you get there? It's like, well, nothing. That's the truth. Like nothing, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't an obvious misstep, so I can't really give you a reason. And I think that silver linings become those reasons. Look at what came out of that, right? You went through that
Mhm.
hardship and it was because something better was on the other side. I cannot stand when people offer me a silver lining because what it says to me is that my daughter's death was justified, that it was a good thing that it happened because look at this other thing that I got, right? And instead, I look at it as just her death happened. There's no going back from that. I can't change the reality that's in front of me, but I do have a say in the choices that I make in my present day. So this book is not a silver lining. It was an intentional choice that I made to bring to Emily and that we then made together, right? We created this thing together. This is not a silver lining at
Right.
all,
Right.
right? And
It's
and
part
I
of the
sort of
both
have to
and.
reconcile Yeah, it's very much sits alongside it. It's like this horrible thing happened, and also, I happen to be already in kind of a privileged position of also being a therapist in this area, which is unique, right?
Mhm.
And I can choose to do something with that. And it's also okay if I don't. It would have also been okay if I had never gone back to work. I chose to. And so I'm choosing now to focus on this work and try to help other bereaved families, right? I think like the ultimate the ultimate way I have to face that sort of reconciliation is with my son and my daughter every day. Sachi was supposed to be the completion of the family, right? That was the choice. 2 kids, done. Bye.
Mhm.
Right? And obviously that's not our story. And I can say with some confidence, a lot of confidence, they would never be here had it not been for her death, right? But that also doesn't mean that they're the silver lining. Um, yeah, I think it's one of those things that we just like, we want to like button it up, right? We want to like put the bow on it at the end and we really want everyone to have their happy ending. You know, you get their kind of their movie ending. And I don't know. I don't know if you ever watched movies when it doesn't end like in a tied up way.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, that makes
It
me
I
like
think of the
it
breakup.
leaves you just leave like you're like, but what then? But what now? But that's life. What then?
that
What
Right.
is
now?
life.
That is very much
It is.
life.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies, and this is gonna show my nerd to you guys. I'm a big old nerd.
Happy to have it.
But that's just who I am. But a lot of my family is really into Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki movies, and they kind of have. Mahaley, have you ever seen any like Ponyo and
Oh, I've seen
I've seen
Ponyo.
Totoro?
Ponyo.
Yeah, I've
Hmm.
seen
Yeah.
Ponyo.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of those movies start and end in the middle.
Mm.
Um, and, like, there really isn't a beginning, and there's really not an end, and you're just kind of in it in the middle, and that kind of was what, like that stuck out to me. I was like, "Oh, that actually may be" well, this sounds stupid, but maybe that's intentional. Maybe that's the whole point,
No, but
is that
yeah, that's
right? Like,
right.
it's just we're on this journey, and we're in it, and we keep moving forward, and that's all we can do. I also feel what's been really difficult for me through this whole process is that I'm so used to focusing on one event or the events that led a mother or a father or a parent to where they are today. So it's been challenging for me because, yes, like you said, it's not a silver lining. This book is not a silver lining, but it's so powerful. So I want to give it the time that it deserves. But I also want to highlight because, like you said, people don't want to hear my story. People, because it's scary. And it's like Mahaley's like, people, your story deserves to be heard. And Sachi deserves to be known, as do your 3 other children as well, all of your children. Um, and the more that we talk about these things, the less scary they become. One of my favorite kind of it's not a quote because I don't remember the exact words, but it's along the lines of like, shame dies. Shame dies, when we bring it out of the darkness and
Mhm.
shine a light on it. And there's so much that I could go into with you, Mahaley. Like and if we had hours and hours and hours, I 100% would. But like, and I'll ask this question. Ooh, this is a very broad question. Um, when you were going through that experience, I'm sure you didn't know how the journey would play out or what exactly your experience would look like. What were some of those feelings that you were grappling with? Because, like you said, it wasn't your fault. It was nobody's fault. But what were some of those thoughts in your head during that time?
I think mostly just figuring out how to survive. That was really what was in front of me for a long time. My oldest was 6 at the time, so I was pretty acutely aware that, this obviously was, and I hope is the worst thing that ever happens to me, right? Uh, the only thing my husband hates when I say this, like the only thing that's parallel to it is like another one of my kids dying, right? Like everything else will just never, it's just never going to be what that was. Um, but I was pretty acutely aware really early on that I I was and my husband, the two of us were responsible for how much of a mark on my daughter's life this was.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's always going to be a mark. I don't think will ever be the mark for her that it is for me, thank God. But I determine now what's next. Do I
Right.
get out of bed? Do I not? Um, and so for a really long time, it was just really just staying alive. Like we would take her to school and come home and I would sleep pretty much I would go back, we'd get home at like 8:30. I'd go back to bed till about 12:30, 1. I'd get up. I might put food in my mouth. I might take a shower. I might sit in the sun. And then we would leave at 2 to pick her up. We would do that together. And then we'd come home and we'd do our afternoon with her, right? Like talk about her day. If she had any homework, we might help her with that. We typically don't do screen time during the week. I don't remember at that point if we might have been watching a movie or something with her, and then we put her to bed, and then I'd go to bed. So that was my life for quite a while. Was just a lot of sleep. It was a lot of kind of sleeping through to like get through the day, so that I could sort of be awake and muster up some energy for when she was around. And the weekends, I remember feeling just felt like years because obviously I couldn't go to sleep.
Yeah.
So it really was that for a while. And then it would sort of become bigger than that. It would be making a plan with a friend. It would be taking my daughter to a birthday party and showing my face in public. It would be um, trying to watch a movie, right? Our attention spans were pretty shot for a while, but at some point in there, maybe a few months in, we started watching stuff again. It might be reading a book. It was pretty small. My focus was pretty small, as I think
Yeah.
it has to be.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons I ask a question like that, even though it is so broad, like how can you sum up everything that you're feeling when you're going through something like that, is because there's someone listening right now who's going through something similar and they're going to hear what you said and know that there's another side. Um and I don't even know if I like to use the term there's another side. There's another day. And it's like you said earlier, you take it moment by moment and then you take it minute by minute and then you take it day by day and then maybe week by week, but you keep moving forward.
You keep moving forward and you
Um
don't look too far ahead. I think for me, when I would look too far in advance, it would look pretty bleak. I really
yeah.
wanted more kids. No one could have ever convinced me that was going to happen. So I couldn't look too far ahead to that. I couldn't look too far ahead to like, what is my marriage going to look like a year from now? What is it going to look like a year from now when like the expectation is that I obviously am not sleeping from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. Like I knew that
Right.
there was going to come a day where I couldn't do that anymore. But it was very hard to look that far ahead.
Yeah. Um and that's I love being able to learn so much about these experiences because like I said, like, yeah, we're a perinatal mental health podcast, but we're also a parenting a podcast. We're also a loss podcast. We are just a parenting podcast in general. And there are experiences that I cannot fathom and I cannot say like, "Oh yeah, I understand." This is a situation where I cannot say like, "Oh yeah, I understand." But I'm able to learn and I'm able to empathize and know, like I said, I'm so thankful that you're willing to be so vulnerable and share so authentically because someone else needs to hear it. And that's kind of the point of the book. If for someone who is navigating a NICU experience or who is navigating loss, it's a guided, yes, it has your personal story in it, but it is a guided sort of tool to help you navigate that. Can you talk to me a little bit about what your goals were and what you think or what you hope families get out of your book?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we really wanted to do is help families feel seen, to have a place to say the things that perhaps they weren't able to or were scared to say anywhere else. Really, I mentioned this a bit earlier, but to let all the parts of their story come forward and claim space to be able to expand the story and let it be whole in all the parts. So those can be the really hard parts, the painful parts, the traumatic parts, and there can be some parts of connection or advocacy or even beauty. And just letting all of that be present and kind of facilitating that, as well as, um, letting other people's stories come through in case people can connect with those, and giving partners a space to do this too, because that's been a place that we've seen that has been kind of forgotten about sometimes, is giving partners a place to have their stories too.
That's something that I appreciate so much. I think about the book for one, and also, Mahaley, obviously I know you through social media. Like that's how I know your life. I'm meeting you for the first time today, and Emily, same for you. I know you through social media, but what I do love is the space that is held for your partner and your partner's perspective and your partner's experience, because you're absolutely right. There is a huge gap in
Mhm.
the consideration of partners dealing with any of this, whether it is loss, whether it is witnessing their partner go through PMADs, whether it is birth trauma, anything. Um, and I know that my partner is a huge advocate and wants to talk about and does talk about like the impact on him. So the space that is held for your husband as well, and your husband talking and advocating, is a huge benefit in filling and work towards filling that gap. Ugh, this is so hard for me, you guys, because no, for real, because I have 8 million questions in my head, but I have to sort of rein it in and round it out.
I
I
mean, I take that as a
do.
compliment, though. I take that as a
Sure, yeah.
compliment. I
I'm
think that's great.
glad. And you know what?
That's how
This is
interesting we are.
Exactly.
you got I mean,
Or at
yes.
the very least, Mahaley. I fully know that I am a little bit of like a not a backstage character. That's not a thing. A backup character. I'm a
No.
supporting role. That's what I
You're
am.
supposed No. So,
Say that with all
okay.
the love and gratitude in my heart.
Very much not at all.
You both have main character energy, okay?
She is main
Um,
character energy.
oh my gosh.
She's
Well,
what
and
are
here's the
they
other
use the word vibe. She's the main
Is that
character
what they
vibe.
The
say?
That's what they
I
vibes.
don't
That's
say.
what the
know.
people are
My
saying
Gen
now.
Z babysitter says I'll like be like, Archie needs lentils for lunch. She'll be like, we'll catch a vibe. I don't know.
What?
I don't know what
I
that
don't even
means.
know. I don't know, but I
I
know
have
you
no
wear a lot of
idea.
I don't
millennial
know
gray.
what
I know that you wear gray.
I do. Today it's millennial black,
I
but
I will tell the fact that
we'll
I
catch a
have
vibe.
this is like maroon. The fact that I'm wearing maroon, I am millennial. I am black. Everything black, gray, everything. I am a
Well,
very true millennial.
you are a millennial.
My 9-year-old came home. My 9-year-old came home and said, "Mom, what does 6'7" mean?" What do you mean? What does 6'7"
This
mean?
week. Why did
I
this
Yeah,
don't know
kid
what
go
that
viral
means.
just for saying 6'7"?
I
I don't even
Googled it.
understand. Why? Like,
I
what
had
was
to
it? What is
Google
this?
it. It's nothing. It means nothing.
But isn't it just the
means that
kid who just said it and went viral saying it? That's what my son
no,
said.
apparently it's a thing. It's a thing now, and it just means like nah, nothing. Like nothing. Yeah, I mean, that's what Google told me. I don't know how we got here either.
Make it
No,
make
I don't
sense.
understand it either. I don't understand it either. But
We're gonna catch a vibe.
we're gonna catch a vibe. 6'7". So no, and I'm gonna. I apparently lentils are a vibe. Okay. Well, okay. This I also love, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't heavily edit my episodes, but when I get brain farts and my tabs shut down, I usually will edit it out with me saying like, "Oh God, my brain shut down again." I think I'm going to keep a lot of this in.
I feel like you
because
should.
It is
It's relatable.
honest.
It's relatable.
But it's honest, and it's where we're at right now. And me, And I am like both of you, I would love to just literally pick your brains for hours. Mahaley, I want to learn so much more about you and about your story. Emily, I want to learn so much more about you and the work that you're doing. And it sucks that this is just a little podcast where we only get a little bit of time with each other. But so what I'm going to do, because my children can only be kept outside for so long with my partner.
Understood.
Yeah, understood.
The sun is setting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say this. I'm going to be completely honest with both of you. Mahaley, I am going to encourage, I'm going to encourage my listeners to check both of your guys out, your social media profiles, all of the work that you've done. It's all going to be in the show notes. But obviously we couldn't get to everything in the 1 hour and 4 minutes that we've been together. So please go follow Mahaley and Emily. Like I said, handles will be in the show notes. But I'm going to be completely honest. Like, Mahaley, I think there's so much more to your story and there's so much more I want to know. Like, there are feelings there that I'm an empath, and I just learned I'm an Enneagram 2. So apparently, like, I just want to hear your story and feel with you and sit with you. And
That's okay.
Emily,
Thank you.
I'm feeding off of your energy as well. I'm like, I just want to learn about these other books and about what you're going to do in the future. And I also am like, oh, this friendship that stemmed from just sending something to an inbox. I'm not going to say dropping in your DMs again.
It is pretty cool. It is pretty
Same
cool.
thing.
Yeah.
It is really cool. And she's
Yeah.
there's a lot to learn. She's very interesting. She's very dynamic, very fascinating.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Both of you.
Sometimes
So
she
open
says
invitation.
I don't know what they meant. She said, so what did you say the other day? She's like, today is something. And I was like, I don't
are you
know
talking
what
about
that is?
I was talking about Mabon because it was the first day. It was the fall equinox. And I was talking
What
about
is that?
What was it?
Mabon. It's the fall equinox festival. It's more of like a Celtic kind of tradition, but and there were different things. There were different things.
I was today years old.
Yeah, so that was on Monday, but also I got to teach her about the winter solstice, which she didn't know about that either.
Didn't know about that.
Like, yes.
You know,
I've learned about chickens, gardening, all the things.
I remember like one of the first like not book related texts that I had sent her was about how I really wanted to befriend a crow, and there were she didn't respond. She didn't respond for.
You were like, oh
and
no,
I was like,
I blew it.
I was like, too much. And she was like, no, I'm so sorry. I got distracted.
Okay, Mahaley, so I know about crows too, and I know that how you're supposed to like make friends with them.
I know, but they don't want to come to my yard. I think the songbirds scared them away. That's a whole other thing. I have not been successful.
Well, I was gonna say, Emily, I can relate. At least I know about the crow thing. Mahaley, I'm sorry. I guess that's just.
She didn't turn me away. I mean, that was early on enough.
Okay,
She probably could have been like, you know what? She could have been like, Emily, there's a better candidate.
I'm rethinking some things here. So what I'm trying to say is, open invitation. You guys are always welcome on Quiet Connection. If you ever you want to go into things more in depth, I have an open door policy for all of my guests, but I would love to connect again if you would like to. If not, that's cool too. I get it. We all have lives, but just know
great.
that
100%. I'd be on board.
I'm so thankful that the two of you spent some time with me. You navigated my crazies, as I navigated my crazies. And
it's what we do in life, all of us. Seriously, all of us.
I mean, this was an especially brain farty day or session. I can't even say day, session. Holy bananas. So, yes. So I've been doing the ends of my episodes a little bit differently. In seasons past, I had 2 questions that I would rotate between, and I decided to do something new. And speaking of millennials, my new thing is it's a little bit of an exercise. So it's going to ask something of both of you. You're going to have, I'm sorry, I'm asking you to use
Like,
your brains
uh-oh.
for a minute. But, well, back in the day when we didn't have text or voice memo and we couldn't just say, hey, I'm trying to befriend a crow and leave you on red. And you had to leave an actual voicemail at somebody's house to let them know that you called. So neither of you know who my next guest is going to be. You don't know anything about them or their story. But you called Quiet Connection. So you got to leave a message. And you're going to leave a message for my next guest. It's tricky, but I've never gotten the same response twice. And every response has been so beautiful. So nothing you say, no pressure.
Do I have to repeat my phone number twice at the end?
This is date of birth, callback number. No, it's not the doctor's office. No, you're just going to leave my next guest a message. And the really fun thing is for you to get your message, you have to listen to the episode before this one. So it's a little self-serving.
Love that.
But yeah, so if you're both willing and up for the challenge, I'd love to hear your voicemail for my next guest.
Sure.
Emily, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello. Think you're awesome and you're doing good things in the world, and shit might feel really crazy sometimes. Shit feels really crazy a lot of the time right now, and you're still doing great. And that's what I've got. Also believe in magic, and, if you make friends with a crow, it might make your life better. I'm just saying. Okay, bye.
Okay, that was pretty amazing. That was amazing. Mahaley, you have to follow.
That's a tough
Sorry,
one to
Mahaley.
follow. I'm going to start answering first, just so I don't have to follow Emily's answer. Okay, so I will just go with what my first instinct was, which was to leave a voicemail for the guest about like what they're going to experience.
Okay.
Even though that's not what I think the assignment was.
Whatever. The assignment is whatever you
the
want it to
assignment's
be.
whatever I make it.
It's a vibe.
We're going to catch a vibe.
Yeah.
Okay, to whoever the next guest is on Quiet Connection. Wherever you are in the day, I hope you're finding a little bit of joy and peace. You are in for a treat during your interview. Chelsea is warm and funny and honest, and I think you're going to have a great conversation.
Thank you. That's the right.
My number
and that's
is
how the episode
77.
Right. 77. Yes. 867-5309.
Mahaley, I see you went the flattery route.
Then I was supposed to like leave words of wisdom for I made up my own assignment.
It was all true. It was all true.
Is the highest praise that I can receive, especially with how off my brain has been. This is not the best example of who I am or how I conduct myself on this podcast. So I appreciate it.
We bring out the best in everyone.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So thank you both. Thanks for leaving a message for my next guest. I am going to link everything about both of you in the show notes. I urge my listeners to check the show notes. There's this whole thing. Nobody's checking the show notes. You guys, there's good stuff in there.
It's good stuff.
There's
check the show notes.
Good stuff in there. Check the show notes. And yeah, I'd love to meet again. And I hope that Mahaley, you enjoy the rest of your day, and me and Emily are gonna go make dinner. Yeah, pretty soon. I mean, the kids are supposed to be in bed in about 40 minutes, so we'll see how that goes. Huge thanks to Mahaley and Emily for not only sharing their stories, but for being absolute pros at navigating my scattered energy. Their friendship and their work remind us that this journey isn't one of perfection. It comes with honesty, connection, and showing up even when things feel messy. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, or share it with someone who might need to hear it. Be sure you're following along on social media for conversations like this and more. And if you'd like to share your own story, visit our website at quietconnectionpodcast.com or send us an email. I always love hearing from you. Join us next time when another story is told and you realize you are not alone. I see you.